Okay, I promised under 5 minutes I'll do what I can. I've updated these plans according to Brennan's email of the other day with regard to the interior and the things he mentioned at the exterior. First, we had looked at a number of different roof pitches. This was 512, and that went down to 412, and this went down to 312 with the lower chord at 112. And what this really afforded was just this window in that bathroom mainly. We're going to go inside and look at some of those things that Brennan mentioned and some of the changes that have happened since the last time we had a film. But with regard to, before we go in there though, it might be helpful to have a quick walkthrough from this outside of this low pitch structure, this 312 over 112. That'll follow, and then we'll go inside. But before we start dealing with those roof pitches outside, looking at this interior floor plan, I had thought this was what Brennan was talking about, and this wasn't dinged in the plan that I sent over. But so that's what the last plan looked like. That's what the drawings look like right now, because I was thinking that Brennan meant this sort of thing, and maybe that is also meant, because he doesn't strike it out here or here. But he does show new doorways here and here, and he's showing these walls as 8 inches. Now I put this one in here, and I left this wall at its standard 5 1/4, whatever it is, because otherwise this doorway starts, this is a 5-0, you would be down to a 4'8". So if you want that wall thickened up on this side, you can do that, and this door, even at 5-0, can probably just shift over a couple inches. But I still left this showing at 5 1/2, 5 1/4, whatever it is. And then at that end, I left it at 5 1/2, 6-inch wall, 6.5 inch finished wall. And you had that as the construction drawings. So I had these as 4'8" and these two as 4'6". But when I went forward, I just made everything 4'8" finished openings. So that was what you had at the floor plan. And that's what I'm currently going to be showing at the floor plan, unless I hear that I'm wrong about these or unless there's other adjustments. Coming outside to make these adjustments to these roof pitches and ceiling pitches, a number of items to cover. First of all, this is kind of how I put this detail together, where this overhang is about halfway across the surface of this column, and then this break point here is aligned with the corner of the column here. Back here though, this gets to be a little bit of a headache, as you can see how this is interfacing. You see how close that gutter is going back under that. You see where the roof pitch, if this is completely accurate here, and it probably is pretty accurate because it's based on that floor framing up there. And we can't bring these beams down because they are dictated. This finished beam right here is dictated by wherever the top of this window is finishing here. If that's carried across, both interior, you want to carry the interior across, and that's going to dictate what's going to happen out here. But we cannot move that down. But I did move the roof pitches down. We could have gone to 11 1/4 inch beams, 3 of them, but it didn't really matter. I think we still had the heel height to do this. So the first thing that happened, and that goes away, but I did bring them down the 2.5 inches to start with, roughly 2.5. That still gave you the 5-inch heel height, and you can see that's like a drip edge that's going in under there. So that's how I adjusted this part here. And then it came down to this up here, and it really didn't have any kind of effect in here because these ceiling planes stayed the same, and I just reduced that heel height to something closer to 5, and it must have been closer to 8.5. That might become a problem if they get into wanting an energy heel on that interior, but we're just going to ignore that for now. Over here, I think actually the shorter one I think actually helps on this facade. Instead of this being close to 9 inches, now it's close to 6.5, and I don't think that hurts us over there at all. Up here though, we certainly don't want that where it's just hitting the gutter. And I don't think you could come down to where it's just below that. You could, then you get this little bird blind up in here. So I dedicated myself to getting that thing down, 6 inches or so below that soffit. And as it turns out, that's a 4.5 12 doing it that way. And you can see how nice, by the way, this alignment is here now at this interface. And this shows that window that we had in behind that before. So when that pitch comes down, that window goes away. And I presume I would just put a skylight in there. Because for one thing, the skylight is going to give you, it's a fact that it'll give you 10 times the light per square foot that a window will, a vertical window. I'm showing a large skylight here. This one's the 30 inches wide, this framing is 16 inches on center. So depending upon how that framing works out, you might be able to put it in like that, 30 inches wide, and that's the 22 inch wide version. And that's how I have them. Both of those are the longest they come, which is about 56 inches or so in height. The one that's wide is called an MO8. That's an MO8. This is a DO8. Whether those are operating, you can have them operating. And here's this elevation also. I would maybe do it something like this. This is 39 inches high. And I mean, depending on how you want to put the cabinet together. That's how I have the skylight shaft there up in the attic coming down through. And that's going to go quite some distance to lighting this hall up, lighting this stairwell up, because this door is probably generally going to be open. So that would help there a lot, that skylight. And that lowering that pitch to 4.5 12 then also allows us to increase the height of this awning window from almost a minimum. It's shown as a minimum kind of 17-inch high thing here to get that up to around 20 or 21 inches high. And then the final thing, these ceiling pitches have to be dropped to 2.5 12 instead of 3 12. And that's what you end up with on the interior, then about 13.4 to the bottom of that beam. Actually, it's about 14 foot to the peak. Whereas with this little one that really just offered that window there, and you had to put ice and water shield on the whole thing, this 4.5 12, by the way, you won't have to put any ice and water shield on anything except maybe that. But that brought that peak down to 11.7 from 14. Oh, and this was at 312. And it even still has that same headache here. I was just noticing, and we would have to be dropping that further as well. So these would each lose 2 or 3 inches, because that almost has to come down to make that make sense with this lower pitch. But I think you're probably heading toward this situation here. So let me know. And that's the final plan right now, what it looks like construction drawings and regular drawings. Now before this is said and done, these are from the past. I did not make finished photos like this of these lower pitch. That's at 512 there. I did not make new finished photos of those, and you can see the patio is not finished in that photo. And that was the 4.5 12, or that was the 412 pitch, and that allowed those two little oddball windows in there. 412 pitch over 212 pitch, and we went to 4.5 12 over 212. And so I did make a couple finished photos of this just to be complete with this. And here they are. And that will be followed by a walkthrough of this same structure, that same walkthrough that I had at the beginning, but now with those interior adjustments and these exterior adjustments done. And now coming in the driveway door with these walls in place and these doorways in place. And actually we're going to run this a couple times because it seems like that window is kind of significant whether that stays or goes. Before I was really confident it should stay. And I still like it, but it's your call at the end. And so I'm going to run this film another time or two, another time with the television in place and with that window there and then gone, and see what your feeling is on that. Coming in here again with the television and the window still in place. And the last take of the whole film is going to be with that window gone. And we've come this far, so I wanted to see if I went back down to 4 lights at the top of that, brought it down from 32 inches to 24 inches. And I do like it better than the one with 3 panes wide. And really, I promise that should do it. Let me know what I have wrong and right, and I will try to wrap things up as quick as I can with regard to the drawings themselves. Thank you.